We're coming to you from the DraftKings.com podcasting studios. DraftKings.com, America's one-day fantasy sports site, where it's like a new season every time you play. DraftKings.com.
From ESPN's Pod Center, this is NBA Lockdown.
Welcome into another edition of the NBA Lockdown podcast. I'm Israel Gutierrez, along with Ramona Shelburne. Ramona, how you doing?
Good. How are you, Izzy?
I'm great. Not as good as Doc Rivers and the Clips are right now. They're they got some house money in their pockets after winning 117-101 yesterday in Houston without Chris Paul, or to borrow a line from Bill Plaschke from the LA Times, who wrote, what's more impressive than Chris Paul, or the Clippers winning with Chris Paul on one leg, the Clippers winning with Chris Paul on his butt. And that's exactly what they did. There it is. It's exactly, if that is Bill Plaschke, by the way. He is a 80s sitcom star. But you watch Chris Paul, you watch Blake Griffin in this game, and I talked about the first round on how Chris overshadowed Blake's performance, because that was a breakthrough playoff performance for him with a couple of triple-doubles. And, despite the fact he missed on a couple of opportunities late in games in that series, they still won the series. And when you look back, his numbers are going to be phenomenal. And here he goes and backs his Game 7 triple-double up with another triple-double, 26, 14, and 13, and, leads this team in a big way in the second half. You're out in L.A., I don't know what the people in Southern California think of Blake Griffin, but I know, nationally it's always been, okay, there's something kind of missing there. Don't know what it is. I don't know what else you could ask for this guy. He seems to be, right now this year, especially in these playoffs, just taking superstardom and accepting it, and now he's playing like it.
Well, it's interesting with Blake because it's gone through a cycle, right? Blake was the star. He was the draw. He was the rookie of the year, jumping over cars when he, in the dunk contest. And then Chris got here, and he was sort of like, here's the adult, and he immediately became the CEO of the team, right? Blake was a headliner, but Chris became the CEO. And I think that those roles have always stuck. And I don't know if it's just that Chris is a little better with the media. He's older. He's got a couple of kids. He always brings his cute son into that, right? Into the press conferences. I think that some of it is also just their personalities and the way they carry themselves. And so it's always been seen as Chris is the older the older brother or the CEO, and Blake is kind of still the kid. Unbeknownst to all of us, like, Blake grew up, right? Because he's been in that role of the kid for so long, you forget that he's now a grown-up. You forget he's not just the rookie who needed some help, from Chris Paul and Chauncey Billups and those guys they went out and got. It's been I've known Blake since his rookie year, and I've always found him to be really mature and pretty deep, but he just doesn't necessarily express that through press conferences or in the type of commercials he does. He's always the funny guy, right? Right. But I think when you see him separate, when you see him outside of that lens that we generally tend to look through when we view him, he really has grown up. And as you said in the last playoff series, that was a breakthrough series for him.
Right, and that's a perfect phrase there, just in terms of growing up, to transition into this sound from Matt Barnes talking about his teammates' triple-double.
Well, he's incredible. He gets in the middle of the field and kind of just picks people apart, kind of like Tom Brady. He catches it free throw line, sometimes the three-point line. If you don't honor him, he'll shoot the jumper, go by you. What can you say? 26, 13, and 14. That's like a grown man triple-double right there.
That's a pretty scary comparison. Tom Brady one.
No, when I was listening to Matt talk, I thought he was going to go for the Tony Gonzalez comparison, right? Like, he gets in the middle of the field. And if you're going to compare Blake to a football player, it shouldn't be a quarterback, right? It should be like
but it's interesting if you look, though, in terms of playmakers or assisters, if you will, in this postseason, John Wall's running away. He's got averages 12.6 assists. But the next three leaders are in this series right here, and it's James Harden at 8.5, Blake Griffin at 8.1, ahead of Chris Paul at 7.9. I don't know if we ever thought we knew he had the athleticism. We knew he was developing the jumper. I think most people probably feel like he leaves a little to be desired on the defensive end still in terms of how aggressively he goes after things. But I don't know how many people knew he had this kind of basketball IQ or floor vision or whatever that allows him to play like this. I guess most people are going to go ahead and credit Chris Paul, right? Playing with him for a few years probably helps him in that respect. But I'm just going to go ahead and guess this was part of his game that, it just naturally has evolved, or, maybe we just haven't seen in the past because we haven't had to, or he hasn't had the proper understanding of what it takes to be that main guy.
Well, I'll tell you this: he really has had all of that. His rookie year, he was an assist man. I mean, I think some of the issues that Blake and Chris had in learning to play together were really that Blake likes the offense to run through him. I mean, he likes to get the ball early in the possession so that he can create either for himself or somebody else. And Chris is Chris. I mean, Chris is the point guard. He's obviously going to have the offense run through him. And the way they've sort of found their way, the way they've sort of balanced it is, if you watch them when they're in the court together, there's certain possessions where Chris deliberately tries to get the ball to Blake very early in the possession so that he can get into the flow. He can get into it. That's why he gets the ball at the high for that high shot there, right? At the high post from an 18-footer. He'll get it there early. And the Spurs, to their credit, figured out, we're just going to let him shoot that. We're going to sag off him, and it's kind of like that's the way they were treating him. There was a great ESPN stats and info package about how they were treating him like they treated LeBron. Back away from him. You don't need to guard him from there. Make him shoot it. If he starts making it, okay, but that's not as dangerous as if you actually guard him and then he either drives to the basket or dishes for an assist. And he's always kind of had that in his game, but when you play with Chris Paul, he's going to be the assist man. I mean, he's just the point guard, and so you don't need to see that night in and night out. But if you go back to his rookie year, he actually did have that. It's just you go with a better alternative when you have Chris Paul on your team.
Right. Well, he's been pretty consistent over the previous 4 years, basically, in the threes in assists, but jumped up to, basically 5.3 this year. Well, on the other side, his rebounds have been going down. He's down to 7.5 this year, but maybe, DeAndre Jordan.
He's just letting DeAndre get all those.
That's right. But how impressed were you yesterday overall with this Clippers team? Because, I mean, this is, they basically, everybody's been saying they basically have 6 guys. And you took away one of those guys, probably, the head of the snake, so to speak, or you could argue Blake Griffin is. But he's gone, and you still don't get that performance from anybody else. I mean, maybe Austin Rivers was a little bit better than average, but for the most part, the rest of that bench gave you nothing except for Jamal, who took a bigger chunk of the minutes out, 32 minutes than normal, and gave you 21 points. But that was a Houston team that, didn't have any relative trouble with Dallas, seemed pretty rested, had plenty of and playing at home and plenty of incentive or opportunity, rather, when you got a short rest from the Clippers and they're missing their main guy. And so I don't know which one am I more impressed by the Clippers or more disappointed in the Rockets? I'd probably lean toward more disappointed in the Rockets.
Yeah, me too. I although this happens when teams have a long layoff, and you saw it happen to the Cavs too. So I think that's not always. We always feel surprised, but it shouldn't be. And I guess the only team that that didn't have that break with the Wizards, right? But when I couldn't hardly watch that game because I just got done watching great basketball for 7 games with them in with the Clippers and the Spurs, and then it was like, oh, what is this? This is not the same series. I don't know, it was like Arash Markazi had some great tweet. He was tweet. It was like you just got done eating at a fancy restaurant with your filet mignon, and now we're at McDonald's. I mean, it was not an exciting game to watch. I mean, it was kind of ugly with a bunch of fouls and turnovers.
Yeah, go to McDonald's.
Not a well-played game.
Grab a McFlurry.
Yeah, I like that once every 3 years.
Yeah, okay.
The McFlurry, right? But it's like it really wasn't a great basketball game. And I think some of that's okay. The Clippers were tired, but they were also kind of rested. And I always think that when you have a team, it can go one of two ways, and it's hard to carry momentum over in the playoffs. It certainly was in that Clippers-Spurs series, right? From game to game, nobody was able to carry over any momentum until the Clippers did in Game 7. But in this one, I think sometimes it's Bill Simmons' famous Ewing theory, right? Like when you lose the head of this, you lose your best player. There's a 1 game or 2 game rise up when they don't have their top player there because they know. They can't just sit back and count on him to take over. They got to do it themselves.
You think? I think this gives them the perfect opportunity to sit Chris Paul again. And like I said, they're playing with house money here. and,
Mm-hmm.
you just proved you can win without him. If you grab a second one without him in Houston, I mean, you're in the clear in terms of you can rest him as long as you want and then prepare for the conference finals. So, I mean, that seems like a no-brainer, right?
Yeah, I think you're right.
Because the reports are that he could miss game 2.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. Like, why chance? Doc is what he's been saying all along is essentially, the thing with the hamstring injuries, those can get a lot worse, right? When those are like, there's certain injuries where it's like you did it, you got to play through it. But this is one of those injuries that could get worse, and then you could be out for the whole playoffs. And so they don't want to put him in a position to do that. The reason he played Game 7 is it was Game 7. I mean, that's it. If you lose,
Correct.
that's it. But I think they're going to be as cautious with CP as they possibly can, and winning that game 1. I mean, I don't know how they played that game. I was there Saturday night after they finished off the Spurs. I mean, everybody who covered that series was just tired, just watching it, the wild swings, the emotion of it. I mean, there's 31 lead changes in that game. It ended at about, I guess it was about 8 o'clock local time because it was a sort of an earlier start, earlier tip because I don't know if it was because of the fight, but that's how I looked at it because I wanted to go watch the fight. But it was they went straight from there to Houston and had a day to get some treatment and then played the next day. I mean, it wasn't just a 48-hour turnaround. It was a 48-hour turnaround and a flight and a prep and for a new opponent. I mean, after that kind of a series, I really don't know how the Clippers did that after that series.
No, it's it adds to the impressive nature of it. To me, one of the best stories so far in this early round plus has been Austin Rivers. He hasn't been great. He hasn't even been consistent. But basically, so far, there's been 2 games. There's been 2 games where it's been very important.
I'm just gonna keep my mouth shut.
You just don't think he was much of it. Well, no. You can't say you're going to keep your mouth shut. I'm just saying 2 opportunities to be there when they need them. The one game where against what was it, Game 4, right, against the Spurs?
Yeah, in San Antonio.
Afterward, and that was 7 of 8. That's a pretty efficient showing. And yesterday, not great, 5 for 12, but hit 4 threes. And that's not going to be there all the time because he's not the most consistent. And he had 3 turnovers, all that. But just where he's filling in, where he's providing a little bit of help here and there, like, it's a good story. I don't care if he's not consistent, and I don't care that a lot of people hate it because, he's probably only on the team for nepotism. But I think it's a good story.
Well, if you're going to tell it, make it a good story.
No,
I ruined it for you. I was like the hater over here, and I was
Hashtag hate hard.
You got to do it once.
I know. I mean, look, it's a good story, but I just believe, if you put anybody in that role and you give them a lot of minutes in the NBA, they're NBA players. They're gonna perform, right? I mean, some people really shrink from the moment, so I guess he didn't do that. But I think, like, you get minutes, you get starters minutes. You're an NBA player, former lottery pick. Generally speaking, you're gonna have an okay game. But would they rather have Darren Collison right now? Yep. Let's just leave it at that.
All right, fine. I'm overstating it. Doc, it's still a mistake. You never
Sorry.
should have done it.
I don't want to rain on that parade. Austin did have a good game in Game 4. He did have a decent game. He's a smart guy. He's a nice guy. I like him when I talk to him in the locker room. There we go. Is that nice, dude? I don't know. Leave it there.
I don't know. You might need to work on your niceness.
Leave it there. Leave it there.
We'll leave it there. All right. And probably to me the more intriguing game last night, Bulls Cavs. You had obviously no Kevin Love, no J.R. Smith. You had David Blatt with the mystery of who's going to play, who's going to start. They ended up going with a small situation with Mike Miller and Iman Shumpert in the starting lineup. To me, if I'm Chicago, I don't want to get overconfident about this game. All right, because you started off hitting shots, you started off taking advantage of their confusion, I guess, or their lack of continuity, especially defensively, or their game plan in terms of pick and rolls. And, yeah, you held them off, but to me, I saw a Cleveland team that for the entire game was playing kind of out of character, as LeBron said afterward, playing a little fast. And I thought they could have taken more advantage of their situation, got a lot more open looks regardless of Kevin Love or J.R. Smith not being there. Iman Shumpert clearly could hit. Mike Miller could hit. James Jones could hit. I just thought they were a little frazzled, it felt like, for the entirety of game 1. And yet, they still had to fight off, the Bulls had to fight off the Cavs. So what do you see here? Do you see like a team with potential of getting better in Cleveland and recovering here, or is this Chicago's series already?
I mean, I don't know. Who did you pick going into the series?
I had the Bulls in 6, and I basically thought because Chicago could get one in Cleveland of the first 2 because no J.R. Smith specifically, and then, they would fight and scrap and claw to hold on to home court and win it at 6.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing with the Bulls. It's like, how sometimes when you're up close to it, you see it different, and you see it different than when you see them from afar all the time. So I literally just spent like a week in the Bulls land, and you see the good, the bad, and the ugly, right, during that Milwaukee series. And there's one day where you're thinking, man, this team, when they play the right way, gosh, they could win everything. I mean, they have the right team. They have so much depth. They have so much talent. And they got a guy who's already won a championship, and from Los Angeles. I mean, I know Pau Gasol really well. And when I see him now, I'm like, ooh, wow, that was like time warp Pau Gasol. Like, where have you been the last 3 years? Like, this is the guy I used to know, right? And then you see them and they can never build off that momentum. A day or 2 later, it's like a completely different team. They don't have the energy. They're flat. Sometimes it seems like they're just trying to run the sets rather than actually play offense. I mean, so like as much as I'm like, wow, that was a great win for the Bulls on the road in Game 1, right? I've seen too much, right? Like I've just been in that world, and Nick Friedel, who covers them for ESPN, is like, Ramona, this is the Bulls. This is how it's been all season long, right? And and it's just like you see it. Like we watch the games, and I'm sure you've done some of their games. It's like you see it, but when you live with them for a week or two, you really feel it. And so like as much as
they're a mess.
As much as I can. They have not put it together in a consistent kind of way, and so it would be in keeping with the Bulls' entire season if they drop Game 2 now. I mean, this is just how they go. I mean, I really don't know what to make of that first game other than I did expect them to win it. Cleveland has to figure out how to play without JR and Kevin Love. That takes a little adjustment period. Plus, they've been off, which means you get a little stale. You lose that edge. And the Bulls were rested. I mean, I think that's like the biggest predictor of Bulls' success in the playoffs is how many days off do they have in between. I mean, you can almost call it. I mean, you've seen the stats already that they run on Derrick Rose. He's 24.3 points when he's had 2 or more days to rest in between games, and 14 points when he's had only 1 day to rest. I mean, it's almost there's no more. There's no the rest of the series. It's going to be 1 day in between each game. Right. So I'm not going to get too excited about that game for the Bulls because they haven't shown over the course of the season that they're the type of team that can hold the lead.
No. And this is the thing, when I say they're a mess, I just mean organizationally. These players already know that chances are this is the last year with Tibbs, that, regardless of what they do, unless they win a championship, they're going to find a way to get rid of him or, quote unquote, trade him to another team or something like that because he just doesn't get along with management. It's been some of the stuff that I've heard that I can't really confirm, so I can't really say are 100% true. It's been ridiculous, the type of relationship that he and that front office have. So in that respect, they're a mess. In terms of where do they know they're going to get their production from, also kind of messy because, again, you've got Derrick Rose from game to game, whether it be a 2-day rest or not. You don't know what you're going to get. Joe Kim, I don't know where he is physically, but he's not the guy. It certainly didn't look at last night, 0 for 4, 9 rebounds, 4 assists, 0 points. Hasn't looked like himself necessarily. And the thing is that, and you got Mirotic, who played 2 minutes yesterday, and I'm guessing, the knee injury is still an issue with him. But you don't know where you're going to get production from this team. But the thing is, they're so talented, whether 1 through 8, let's say, that it could be anybody. Because Gasol's been consistent, yes, but they can't consistently get him the ball at the great spots. So sometimes, they will, sometimes they won't. Jimmy Butler's been really good, but in the series, he's going to spend so much energy defending LeBron, as you saw yesterday when he, barely got off the floor to end the first half. He's probably not going to be as efficient offensively. So I agree with you in that you don't know what you're going to get from these guys necessarily, but they're so talented when they're whole and healthy. And the Cavaliers aren't that. They're not whole. They're not healthy. And I've seen LeBron James play in a way where he sort of gets crazed. And it's not a bad thing. It's when it's all on him. Like I point back to Game 6 against the Spurs in 2013 when he went headbandless and he just tried to do everything. He just tried to do everything. He tried to play like a beast, and it affected his touch. His shot wasn't there, but he was going to go after it, get another attempt, and he playing a little bit that way, particularly in the fourth quarter yesterday, just trying to put it all on himself. And I think they're going to look at that tape and realize that they can still run their stuff, especially if Tibbs is going to be stubborn and play a natural 4-5, and they're still going to go small, Cleveland. Then there's going to be shooters open, and there's going to be rotations to be had and opportunities to be had. So I still think they're able to recover, but I just feel like the Bulls are going to sort of – I don't even know how – they're going to accidentally trip upon, three 20-point performers like they did yesterday. 3 20-point performers, and it's going to be difficult on Cleveland because I just don't see – I think they can play more efficiently offensively if they slow down, but I don't think this is a series where they can find their offense again and score 105, 110 a game.
Well, I'm gonna be that girl who comes on the podcast and let me just go plug the article that I wrote that's gonna come out tomorrow. Right? I'm gonna be
that's
that
fine.
girl.
Amin is that girl all the time.
Hashtag hate hard.
There you go. Slow with that, Josh. That was good. Yeah, but I just tomorrow there'll be an article that dives into what's really going on with Tibbs and the Bulls and why we've gotten to this place. But the takeaway I think you'll have is essentially there's this sense right now that this could be the last year that this group gets to try to do it together. And I think when you get that feeling, I think they've had that, Joe Kim, every time you ask him about playing Cleveland for the past 2 months, he gets that smile on his face. This is the team they wanted. They're like the challenger calling out the champs, right? Even though Cleveland's not the champs, LeBron is. And I think they've kind of wanted this series for a while. They know what's at stake. As you mentioned, Tom Thibodeau's future there is very murky. It's not, some of it's his relationship with management. Some of it, honestly, though, is just, it's a personal style. When you go through that locker room, it's all in the piece that'll run tomorrow. But you'll see kind of who lines up on which side and why they're there. A lot of it, I'm just so used to drama with the Los Angeles Lakers where people were just outward about it, right? I mean, if you didn't like the coach, Pau Gasol at the White House, right? If you didn't like the coach, you just said so in the media, right? If you didn't like how you're being used, nobody talks about it there, and I think nobody talks about it publicly, at least there. You can feel it, but they don't bring it to light because essentially I think they're too good to ruin everything by creating a storm, right? They're too good to blow things up publicly right now. They just need to keep their head down and play. And it's hard to ignore it because, I mean, you can step in the locker room. You felt it, right? You go in there and you feel it when you're there. But they're playing with that all season long, the uncertainty over the future, over the roster, over the coaching staff, over everything. And I think actually it might help them in this kind of a series because there's no excuses. I mean, whatever it is, you just got to squash it and move on and play because there may not be a next year for this group, as they're currently constructed. And I think that's as we get later into the series, that's what you'll see. One of the things I thought you said that was interesting, though, is with Joe Kim has been the emotional leader of this team for so long, and he still is, but on the court right now, you don't know what you're going to get from him from game to game, right? And some of that's the injuries, some of that is just the way he's being used now is different. In a lot of ways, Powell plays the same role that Joe Kim used to be. He used to be the really good passing big man, and now Powell's sort of just better at that, right? That Powell's one of the most skilled big men that's ever played in the NBA. And I don't think that sounds like a big statement, but I don't think it's too far off. Powell's a basketball savant. And so some of what he does mirrors what Joe Kim does. And so I think when I watch him play, it just looks like Joe Kim doesn't quite know what to do because Powell's doing what he usually does, right? And then there's also whatever's going on with him and his knee and coming back from that. And so when I watch him, I don't know, do you think Joe Kim finds that game back? Do you think they need him to find that in order to be the team they need to be?
It's been a year already, and it's not like this is games 6 and 7 where he's playing with Pau Gasol. It's 80-some, with this group, who knows? It's probably less than that. But he should be able to find that, and I think he can find still the ways to rebound and assist. But I think you're right; he does look lost sometimes in terms of just kind of where to get out of the way. Like, I don't want to be the open guy all the time because they're leaving me open. And then here it is. You see him in warm-ups. He keeps practicing this, from the top of the key, a drive left and a sweeping little hook, or a drive right and a sweeping hook, knowing that, he's not going to be able to get directly to the rim. He's got to be about 5 feet to the left or right of it. And, you see him do it in the games, and he still looks hesitant and looks uncomfortable doing it. So he needs some kind of outlet. He needs some sort of go-to when he gets the ball, and that way that could still flow, because normally he's either right underneath the rim or, creating a play to pass it out. And so, I think there's just too many times where strategically he's finding himself, strategically meaning by the other team, finding himself without, any idea really what to do. So I don't know if he'll ever get that part. And I know he won't do it in the midst of a series. He might have a game or two, but he won't do it in the midst of a series. But I don't think they have to do that. I think he does have to be the guy that they sacrifice if Cavaliers go small. And I do think, you give him maybe 3 minutes, 4 minutes in the first quarter. If he's not effective, that's fine. Take him out, play small, and then you flip-flop him and Powell as the primary big man, because I'm telling you, that's going to come back and catch the Bulls, because, look, say what you will about LeBron not wanting to play the 4 spot. In certain cases, and this certainly being one of them, with Kevin Love out, it's his most effective position.
Yeah, it is. I mean, Eric Spoelstra's going to love you. Keep talking, say it. He's been saying that for years, and I think LeBron's kind of come around to that understanding. I mean, there was a period of time there where he had to be talked into that, but now I think he's embraced that, and I think, in this type of series, with LeBron coaching the team the way he is, sorry, right? I think that's what's going to happen, I think, LeBron's such a smart basketball player. Like, that is where this is going to go. I mean, you called it, and then when we come back on the podcast next week and it happens, we should save this audio here. But that is the way the Cavs are probably going to have to beat them, right? Like, if you don't have Kevin Love out there, then just do something different and make them react to you. And I think the Bulls have the type of roster that can react. They have so many different puzzle pieces that you can play in so many different combinations and so many different styles, which is generally the recipe for playoff success, right? Like, there's no team that can do something to you that you can't counter. I don't know. Who do you like as a coach better, Tom Thibodeau or LeBron James?
#Hate hard.
I mean, we'll see it play out over the course of this series, right?
Here's what's interesting to me when you look at it. Both road teams went in yesterday and won game 1 of their series. The Clippers, for their series, BPI gives the Clippers an 81% chance to win the series.
Woo! Wow.
The Bulls, only a 56% chance to win the series. So it kind of tells you.
Yeah, they've been watching the Bulls all year.
Yeah, and, you've seen – and I know every story's different, but LeBron has lost to the Bulls in game 1 twice and come back and won the next 4 each time, the last couple of times. So, I think as a coach, as you mentioned, LeBron can definitely recover from this. And I don't know if he can recover from his reasoning for taking off the headband. Did you see this, Ramona?
Yeah, I mean, okay, first of all, that was like, if you were going to wait 2 months to give us an explanation, it better be better than that. Like, I liked it better when we just didn't know, right? Like, I just want to look like my teammates. Like, I was like, wait, it's almost better. Like, for 2 years, Nick Young would not tell us what the P in Swaggy P stood for, right? And I was like, Nick, it's better if you don't say it, because it's more fun if we have to guess, right? And I was like, just don't let me be in that position where it's like, remember that song from the 90s, OPP, right? Like, I was a little kid singing that, and I didn't know what it really was. I was a stupid little kid singing that, and I'm like, wait, when I get older, I was like, I can't believe my parents let me listen to that. Jeez. I was like, Nick, as long as it's not something like that, then we're fine. He's like, no, it's good. It's good. It's just better if you don't explain it, because once you explain it and then it's a dud like that, I mean, I would just rather not know. Just it was so much better when it was just mysterious.
Kind of like Darko Milicic. Kind of better when you had no idea what he was.
There you go.
And it's going to make you. But here's the thing I don't understand, because everybody defaults to the place where, okay, well, he was wearing the headband because of the hairline, and the headband got thicker as the hairline went farther back. But he came up wearing a headband. He wasn't losing his hair when he was 20, 21 years old. So there was some sort of attachment to it. And then it became about the hairline because it was falling back. And now, since LeBron won't acknowledge the hairline has anything to do with it, now everybody's just, focusing on that and obsessing about that. And look, let's be honest. There's some awkwardness to his hair because he's, clinging on for dear life. And that's, I'm not going to blame the guy. I mean, what is he? He's not even 30 yet, is he?
He just turned 30 this year.
Just turned 30. That's right. Just turned 30. And so, look, if that's something that bothers him, if that's his pet peeve or if that's his demon, that's fine because there's, a lot of different lights, a lot of different angles you're going to get. But at least acknowledge it because at least have fun with it. Because at this point, everybody's they're going to make you seem like insecure and, unhappy with yourself and unwilling to be who you are. Meanwhile, what did Steph Curry just say? I won the MVP. I encourage everybody to be themselves and be happy with who you are. And now you got LeBron still fighting this image of, I'm not balding, I swear. So it's just funny to me. And so this is the first time in his 13 year career that he decided to look like his teammates. I mean, because they weren't all wearing headbands the previous decade. It just doesn't make any sense.
I mean, there's something else to this. There has to be. That can't be the reason, right? Like, I actually liked it better. Like, my theory on it was that he was just doing it just to do it, to mess with everybody. Like, it's an incredible show of power to do something small like that really doesn't have a lot of, like, impact on the game or anything else, but it causes such a huge debate amongst the fans and the media. It's just messing with people. Like, you know how when you're in a post-game locker room and a guy will talk really, really softly, like on purpose, so you can so he could see the reporters have to reach in further.
Can I just say, I got to pause right there. Can I just say the worst in the history of man at that was Greg Maddux. He was a jerk. He used to whisper under his breath to give answers, knowing there's like an 8-deep line, and tape recorders weren't even that good back then. So that was frustrating. But anyway.
Right. Well, Shaq would do that. Shaq. I mean, this is when I first got into the business. This was Shaq. It was the Kobe Shaq locker room, right? And Shaq, I mean, Howard Beck, we used to cover the team for the Daily News when I was there, and how he had this line, he was like, they're the Shaq surprises, right? Because you had no idea what he was saying the whole time. You'd have your tape recorder in there, get back to the press room and listen to it. You're like, oh my gosh, he just completely blasted people. Like, wow. But he did it on purpose, and he would just smile the whole time just to mess, because it was fun to mess with us, right? Like, I felt like when I watched LeBron do the headband, like, that's what he was doing. That's that's a much better explanation than I want to look like my teammates.
Right. All right, so basically that's what he said. He said, I've taken off the headband because I wanted to look like my teammates, all right? And I'm just about to throw our producer Josh under the bus because I'm going to read what he put out there in terms of trying to drive this conversation, all right? And this is for you guys to come behind the curtain here, the listeners. The parallels between LeBron and a 14-year-old girl are stunning. He takes pictures and talks about the clique, tells everybody who his besties are. Now he makes style decisions based on what his teammates are wearing. Everybody wants to fit in with the crew. 2 exclamation points.
Man.
I mean,
hate hard.
That's a hot take if I've ever heard one before. It's a producer hot take. That was a hot take down. So I had to read it out because, Josh, that deserves some credit.
Well, then give him the shout on Twitter. Yeah. And LeBron, if you're hearing this, the LeBron fans, if you're hearing this, you can find Josh, our producer, at Josh.
It's at Josh_Macri. Yes, M-A-C-R-I.
Feel free to leave me and Ramona out of this one, all right, because we didn't do that. All right. We're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we talk about Adam Silver's new idea, or maybe it's not an idea at all. We'll be back after a minute.
Geico presents Strange Savings Stories. Astronomers detected an interstellar transmission. It stated, Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more. The implications were staggering. Was the cosmos telling us we could all save hundreds on car insurance with Geico? Or did their radar merely pick up a signal from the nearby Rufus and Clyde's morning show? We may never know.
Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
For those coaches, it always depends who's on your team, right, in terms of whether it's an effective strategy. I think I've heard some from some of the greatest at our owners' meetings, Michael Jordan, Larry's attended those meetings, Larry Bird, and their view is guys got to make their free throws, and that's influenced me. In my old job, I used to run NBA entertainment. I used to say, we got to do away with this because it's bad television. The other thing I've learned is when you actually then go look at the ratings, people are not tuning out. I mean, it's fascinating strategy for a lot of fans. And also, you and I talk a lot about youth basketball. I keep getting emails from youth coaches saying, make it matter, make guys have to hit their free throws. So I'm reluctant to make that change.
That was Adam Silver, the NBA commissioner, on PTI. And, Ramona, this has been a subject. Obviously, the culprit most guilty of this has been the San Antonio Spurs, especially on DeAndre Jordan. And, Pop says he hates it, but he has to do it, which, again, I'm going to say this one more time. I wish he would treat those in-game interviews the same way. We know you hate it. Just do it. But anyway, I would say here's the only thing. Look, I don't have a problem with leaving it in and making that argument. So, hey, hit your free throws. It's it's elementary. It's basketball 101. I don't care how big you are, how big your hands are. Hit your free throws. And I understand that. But to me, the other side of the game is also important. You should be able to defend. It's a bailout play. Fouls should be because you can't defend somebody, or because, you failed to defend somebody. It shouldn't be a part of the strategy. And I can see both sides of that because both sides are pretty much bailouts. One side says, well, you're not playing defense, you're just hacking me. And the other team says, hey, well, you got to hit free throws. It's the easiest thing in the game, which it really isn't. But I don't know where you stand on this, but I like that Adam Silver listens to players. I do think that, he's probably not easily, but he's overly influenced by some of the players, and I think he's going to get that sort of calloused side to him after the first CBA negotiations, and then maybe he won't listen to them every single time out. But in this case, I guess it's the right thing to do, but there's got to be – I don't know. He says people aren't tuning out, but it's certainly not helping. It's not making the game more exciting, especially when part of the conversation you're hearing is about how this makes the games more boring. There's this sort of how do I feel about this on principle, and there's the how do I feel about this having watched 7 games of this. And exactly. Right, when you have to sit through it, you're like, oh man. But I will say, I got to be honest, I'm kind of on the side of the youth basketball coaches because I've actually seen Blake Griffin go through the same type of thing, right? Blake was a bad free throw shooter last year, the year before that, and he just got better. Like he's not a great free throw shooter. In some ways, he looks better because he plays next to DeAndre, right? Like if you're gonna do that the hack a Shaq on somebody, you'll do it on DeAndre and not Blake. But really, like Blake was a bad free throw shooter. He got better, and they stopped doing it to him. So if you're DeAndre, I watched DeAndre shoot free throws. He actually has a decent form. Like he looks like he's gonna make them, right? He doesn't look nervous up there. He practices all the time. They've actually got a good shooting coach. His name is Bob Thate. He works with both of them all the time. I mean, I think it does feel kind of mental to me when I watch DeAndre because his form is pretty good. I mean, like when I watch Blake, his form is. It's hard to watch. I mean, he does that weird pause thing and his herky jerky, and I'm like, and Shaq's form was always terrible.
Yeah, terrible, and he changed it 15 times, right? Same thing with Dwight Howard. I mean, Dwight would after practice he would always shoot like a bunch of free throws, and he'd make those at like 70-80%. But then we get in the game, and he's down to 50%. And so, I mean, whatever it is, they got to just get better at it. And if you change the rules to cover that up. Like, it doesn't give people an incentive to do it. And I think it has been proven effective. Like, when you watched in the 7-game series, almost every single time Pop did it, the Spurs would be up by about 4 or 5 points. Well, that's the beauty of it, though. Sometimes you could argue the ineffectiveness of it, too. So it is still strategic. Right. It's not an automatic. Otherwise, everybody would be doing it. Right. I mean, but it worked in the sense that DeAndre would hit about 50% of his free throws, but they would do it and it would change the pace of the game so much that everybody got out of rhythm, like both teams really. But most of the time they did it, like it took the Clippers out of whatever rhythm they had gotten into, and it got DeAndre out of the game a couple of times. I mean, there was a couple of times they'd have to take him out of games, and that's the point of it, right? Now the part where it backfired on him is when guys like Manu Ginobili would pick up extra fouls by doing it, or Patty Mills, and I think it was Game 5 in LA where he picked up. He was one of the guys who had been tasked with doing the extra hack-a-shack fouls on DeAndre, and I was like, wait, Patty Mills has been too good for you. Can't afford to have him pick up his 4th there, right? It's interesting. Strategically, it's interesting to watch. And if DeAndre doesn't like it, he just do what Blake did. Just get that free throw percentage up from 50% to 60 or 65.
it's not just that way you're picking up fouls that can backfire. You're not getting fast break points unless you're, just playing against a really bad team and you get it off and, a rebound off the missed free throw and run it. And, you're not getting quick offense. You probably have to, slow it down, and maybe your rhythm as a team can be ruined too. And flatly, there's just that hesitation from coaches because they're just like, wait a second. Is it good strategy? Is it not good strategy? I haven't really gotten 100% proof either way. Yeah. And then when do you do it? And then how much do you factor in my guilt because I don't want to do it, but I'm going to do it sometimes?
Yeah.
To me, I'm with you. I do think that it would be a better story if DeAndre, because I don't know how much time these guys really, really, really spend on free throws because most of the time, it's more of a chore than it is anything. They don't want – it's almost like not wanting to shoot underhanded. You don't want to make it look like they're getting to you, so you don't want to be in the gym 5 straight hours practicing free throws. I do think if he just has one decent month to start next year, I think eventually it's just going to – go away for a while, or it's only going to happen again come playoffs, and then you can maybe try to prove them wrong again. But I'm with you. I think I lean toward the rule staying or no rule being put in place.
Yeah, you know what this reminds me of though is it's like Pop is the one coach in the NBA who can get away with that. I think there's certain coaches where if they do it and it backfires on them, they'll have to answer for it. But Pop is the one coach who's got the clout to do it and just it didn't work. Right? I think that so many of the things we see in this game, him deliberately resting guys, right, on the, in national TV games, he's the only one who can really do that, right, because he's Pop, because he's got those 5 rings, because he's got that accomplishment. There's a lot of, there used to be a time and place where when Phil Jackson was coaching, he had to be sort of he could say things that nobody else could say because he's Phil. Right? I feel like Pop's kind of taken on that mantle now, and so I thought it was interesting both he and R.C. Buford both they didn't go that far with the criticism of this being a first-round series. When I talked to RC after the game, and it was a real shame that one of those teams was going to be out after the first round with as good of a series as that was, and the way it went, and because the seedings are influenced by who wins the divisions. But neither of them really chirped that loudly. And if you actually watched Adam Silver on PCI yesterday, that was the one thing he actually seemed to be open to changing is seedings based on division. He's like, yeah, you should get, if we're going to have divisions, you should get something for it. And, but you've seen in this playoffs the way that, is giving them that higher seed, is it really all that, is that really all that, are they deserving of that? If they wouldn't have done that, you would have had Portland in the 6th seed, so it would have been the Clippers against Portland, and the Mavericks would have still been the 7th seed, right? But the Spurs would have played the Grizzlies. That seems like a better Western Conference playoff bracket than what we actually ended up getting. And, I think Adam Silver seemed more open to doing that than to changing the Hack-a-Shack rules going forward. I just thought it was interesting that R.C. Buford and Greg Popovich didn't say much about it, either before, during, or after the series.
Well, to me, that's all, I understand you want the better series towards the end, but the losing team can't complain about losing an epic first round and saying, oh, that should have been the conference finals, because what does that mean? True. What does the conference finals get you other than a few extra home games and some more money for the owner? In terms of, what it means in the long term and your legacy, whatever. They're the Spurs, and, first of all, that's not what they played for. You could ask any of those guys. Secondly, if they feel like if they're going to lose, they're going to lose. It's pointless to complain when you lose. If you're not better than a team, you're not going to win a championship. So, to me, I think, while I do think that divisions are useless and, the incentive to win it, getting that 4-5 seed is fine. But, in a case like this year with Portland, they weren't going to win anyway, whether they were the 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 seed or 1, 2, 3, 4, the way they were banged up at the end of the season. So it's odd, but there's another thing that I don't think requires immediate change whatsoever.
Yeah, I'd like to be a fly on the wall of that competition committee this year, though. And I think that's what's good is that Adam Silver seems to be open to discussing a lot of things. I don't remember ever having these discussions so openly and so often in the past where this type of stuff gets debated and the competition committee, what they actually talked about gets out there. It's fun for us to cover, and it's also, I think, it's also good in the sense that, there seems to be a policy in place, or there seems to be a willingness to change if that's what is better for the game, and I don't remember that in years past.
Yeah, listen, it's the if the NFL can stay relevant in the off season by talking about extra points, the NBA can definitely find a way to stay relevant during the off season to discuss rule changes. But anyway, that's going to wrap up this edition for the NBA Lockdown podcast. I'm Israel Gutierrez for Ramona Shelburne and for Shaq, who randomly showed up every time we mentioned his name, and that right there. Thank you all for listening again, and we will talk to you all tomorrow.
Thanks for listening to NBA Lockdown on ESPN Radio. For more great podcasts, check out the Pod Center page on ESPNradio.com.